Hello and welcome to Clay Pigeon Kart Club on the 13th of November 2022. It's time for the 5th and final round of the two Counties Kart Club Championship and also for the Matty Percy Memorial Trophy event. The Senior Blues are lining up on the grid ready and raring to go for their final of the year, but earlier on in the day the two Counties Kart Club Cadet Championship was wrapped up, Devon Giles taking an unopposed win in that one. And also in the Junior Blues, Reese Reed would take the day ahead of Mitch Carpenter in order to secure him the 2022 Two Counties Kart Club Junior Blue Champion, ahead of Mitch Carpenter, with Rudy Winslow Morton making up the top three, ahead of Sam Mitchell, Jamie Bradfield, Ben Gill and Jamie Dart. In the Senior Blue standings, as things stand, Joey Foster is leading the way, 4 points clear of Mike Bell, who's even on points with Anthony Cleal, so any one of the top three could take the title. Kevin O'Neill is in fourth, ahead of Paul Alexander, with Steve Groves hot on his heels. Chris Underhill, Max Gunter, Ron Schoen and Rob Mortimer complete the top 10. David Good in behind ahead of John Hartshorn, with David Waldron, Alex Kemp and Tom Parker making up the top 15. And Kieran Quirk, Harry Smithson, Alex Fortune, Robin Stoddart-Stone and Fred Powell complete the top 20. In the Blue Master standings, it's Joey Foster leading the way, 2 points clear of Anthony Cleal. Kevin O'Neill is in third ahead of Paul Alexander, with Steve Groves making up the top 5. Chris Underhill sixth ahead of Rob Mortimer, David Waldron, Ron Schoen and David Good to complete the top 10. John Hartshorn in behind ahead of Alex Kemp, Chris Lord, Alex Fortune and Robin Stoddart-Stone's even on points making up the top 15. In the Blue Veterans standings, up next is Anthony Cleal leading the way, Kevin O'Neill in second spot ahead of Paul Alexander, with Steve Groves hot on his heels as always. Chris Underhill completing the top 5 ahead of Rob Mortimer, David Good, Ron Schoen, John Hartshorn and David Waldron, with Chris Lord, Robin Stoddart-Stones, Fred Powell, Stuart Gray and Kevin Ford completing the top 15. In the Blue Legends standings, it's Kevin O'Neill leading the way on 0 points, with Chris Underhill his nearest challenger. David Good completing the top 3 ahead of Ron Schoen, John Hartshorn, Chris Lord, Robin Stoddart-Stones and Stuart Gray. And in the Blue Top Weights is Rob Mortimer winning at Dunks to take the lead. Ron Schoen his 1 point behind in second ahead of Tom Parker, Fred Powell and Phil Shears making up the top 5. In the Mixed Conditions Heat 1 it was Kevin Ford who rose to the challenge to take the lead. Joey Foster from the back of the grid up into second, with a strong performance from Max Gunter, the former novice, up in third. Dave Watts in fourth ahead of Steve Groves, Mike Bell, Anthony Cleal, Stuart Gray, Chris Underhill and Robin Stoddart-Stones complete the top 10. In the second heat, it was Stuart Gray taking the win ahead of Anthony Cleal, Dave Watts in third ahead of Kevin Ford and Joey Foster, Mike Bell sixth ahead of Alex Fortune, Chris Underhill, Paul Alexander and Chris Lord complete the top 10. And in the third and final heat of the day, it would be a win for David Watts, Anthony Cleal in second ahead of Stuart Gray, Kevin Ford in fourth ahead of Paul Alexander, Joey Foster finishing sixth ahead of Chris Underhill, Kevin O'Neill, Chris Lord and John Hartshorn to complete the top 10 in the third heat. Those three heats would combine to form the grid here for the final. As we are off on the rolling lap, it's Dave Watts lining up on pole, the O-plate. Alongside him is Kevin Ford with Anthony Cleal third, Stuart Gray making up row 2 ahead of Joe Foster to complete the top 5 with only 5 points separating them. Chris Underhill 6th ahead of Steve Groves and Paul Alexander. Mike Bell down in 9th, so his championship bid may be quite a long shot now. And Max Gunter rounding out the top 10. Chris Lord 11th ahead of the high-flying novice Will Hollis. John Hartshorn 13th ahead of Alex Fortune and David Good to complete the top 15. Robin Stoddart-Stone 16th ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Rob Mortimer, Ron Schoen and Alex Kemp, with Paul Wheeler lining up in 21st spot and non-starts for Mike Watts and Rich Puddle due to attrition throughout the day. As Dave Watts leads the pack round pit bend, you can see everyone getting tucked up close together, ready for starters' orders. Keep an eye on Watts, keep an eye on the lights. And away we go, and it's a good start from Watts, but Ford's gone with him. Stuart Gray with a good start there, up into third, muscling out Anthony Cleal, but it's Watts leading from Ford, and that's Joey Foster around the outside of Billy's Blind. As we hop on board with Paul Alexander, that's Mike Bell and Chris Underhill challenging into the chicane, and Max Gunter making up places. He's going to make up 2 more there on exit, but it's Watts leading and Foster up to second ahead of Kevin Ford. Kevin O'Neill there side by side with Alex Fortune further back. Ron Schoen challenging as well as we're on board Mike Bell, and that's Paul Alexander slotting up the inside at the horseshoe, so that's a change further down the order. Kevin O'Neill there still side by side with Alex Kemp as the first lap is over. Dave Watts leads the way ahead of Foster, Ford, Gray and Cleal as the pack thunders down towards Billy's Blind for the second time, and into the chicane. That's Stuart Gray looking all over the back of Kevin Ford for third spot. Steve Groves is in 6th, and then there's a big train forming. Chris Underhill under attack from Max Gunter, in behind Mike Bell and Paul Alexander side by side further back, and Bell slots through ahead of Alexander. Behind them, that's Alex Fortune and Chris Lord battling away. Robin Stoddart-Stones, Will Hollis and John Hartshorn are all in there as well. Likewise, David Good. Kevin O'Neill's passed Rob Mortimer in this time by, but across the line to start lap 2, Dave Watts building a gap, and that is Stuart Gray down the inside against Kevin Ford, and Anthony Cleale's going to follow through into Billy's blind, so Ford are down 2 spots. Gray up onto the top 3, and Anthony Cleale into 4th. Further back, Max Gunter looking once again at Chris Underhill. Down into Billy's blind, Chris Lord and Alex Fortune side by side further back. Fortune trying to hang on around the outside, but to no avail. Will Hollis attacking Robin Stoddart-Stones as well as they exit the Han Hairpin into the horseshoe, but up at Pit Bend go the battle for 3rd. Then it's Groves, Underhill, Gunter and the rest thundering past. There's Ron shown in the number 15 trying to keep in touch. Down at Billy's blind, looked like Chris Underhill was thinking about having a look at Steve Groves there as the pack go into the chicane, but Watts leads the way into the Han Hairpin ahead of Foster, Gray, Cleale, Ford. Then it's Groves, Underhill, Gunter and Bell side by side, the 2 Octanes as they exit the Han Hairpin up into the horseshoe. Paul Alexander down the inside once again against Mike Bell, and the number 9 making up a position. Behind Bell now is Chris Lord, and there's starting to be a bit of a gap opening up there. Now we go onto the main straight. That's Max Gunter side by side with Chris Underhill across the line. Gunter backing out of the move into Billy's blind though. Further back, Will Hollis challenging Robin Stoddart-Stones, and that's Alex Fortune nipping up the inside of Chris Lord in the chicane. Paul Alexander now looking to the inside of Max Gunter into the Han Hairpin, but to no avail, and Stoddart-Stones going down the inside of Chris Lord, and he's going to slide wide, and it looks like all changing the order behind as we hop on board with Rob Mortimer. John Hartshorn and Will Hollis have both made up positions through the sliding wide of Stoddart-Stones, but around Pit Bend and down to start another lap. Mike Bell moving up alongside Paul Alexander, just going to get edged out on top speed though down towards Billy's blind. Chris Underhill holding off Max Gunter, and Steve Groves just managing to drive his own race there in that 6th position. So this battle is for 7th and back. Is into the Han Hairpin once again. Alex Fortune and Will Hollis well and truly in this fight now. Kevin O'Neill pressuring Robin Stoddart-Stones. We're on board with Bell running wide, and that's why it's Alex Fortune up the inside in the number 17, so the Mac Minarelli driver makes up another spot. As around top bend we go. Max Gunter still pressuring Chris Underhill. Mike Bell side by side with Alex Fortune further back. Will Hollis looking to try and get stuck in as well, but back to the lead of the race is Dave Watts building a gap. Joey Foster now under pressure from Stuart Gray for 2nd and 3rd. Then it's Cleale, Ford, and then the big gap is growing back to Steve Groves. Chris Underhill defending from Gunter. Then it's Alexander, Bell, Fortune, Hollis and Hartshorn. And running wide there, that's David Gould, and that's Kevin O'Neill making up a spot. Paul Alexander as well making the move again into the horseshoe. His favourite overtaking spot it seems against Max Gunter. But down into Billy's blind, that's Stuart Gray having a look at Joey Foster for 2nd place. Further back across the line goes Groves, Underhill and the rest. It really is starting to grow into a bit of a train this. Is now on board with Kevin O'Neill ahead of us in the glare. That's Chris Lord running wide, and Robin Stoddart-Stones making up a position. Good move there from Stoddart-Stones. Underhill defending once again. Alexander and Gunter side by side in behind. Fortune in there as well. As around Pit Bend it goes. Joey Foster in the number 66. You can see on right a shot. Stuart Gray going to move to the inside of the kink though, and Gray's going to take 2nd. The number 97 moves across the cover the inside into Billy's blind, and Joey Foster having to slot in behind. Through the chicane and up the Sturmey straight goes the battle for 2nd, but into Billy's blind goes Alex Fortune up the inside of Max Gunter, and Mike Bell's going to jump through the gap as well. So changing positions there for the Octanes, and Paul Alexander going to get a good run against Chris Underhill. He's going to move round the outside and get back in front ahead for the Han Hairpin. Good move from Alexander as they're side by side in behind. Fortune already attacking the Esprit of Chris Underhill. Further back, that's Chris Lord, Robin Stoddart-Stones and Kevin O'Neill in battle ahead of the next train. But round Pit Bend they go. Fortune tacked onto the back bumper of Chris Underhill already as Paul Alexander trying to break away and catch Steve Groves. Is the battle for 2nd, still just as close. Stuart Gray with Joe Foster all over his bumper. Anthony Cleale in the picture as well. Kevin Ford settling into that 5th spot. And then behind is Groves, Alexander, Underhill, Fortune and Bell. With Max Gunter in there, Will Hollis and John Hartshorn on the back of this pack. As through the infield they go. Then it's Stoddart Stones. There's Kevin O'Neill up the inside of Rob Mortimer once again. So positions changing in behind. Round pit bend there, John Hartshorn looking to put the pressure on Will Hollis as we go down across the line to start another lap. And that's a problem there, that's Chris Lord touring in. So his season is over, unfortunately. Not the way he wants to end it, as through goes Paul Wheeler. And Dave Watts, the O-plate, catching up to put a lap on Wheeler. Back to the battle pack for 6th spot. Going into the infields, we're on board now with Alex Kemp. Number 13 in front of us is David Good, looking to try and pull away and put some pressure on Rob Mortimer. But now up through pit bend goes Groves. Alexander well and truly on his back bumper. Chris Underhill coming with them. Then Bell, Fortune, Hollis, Gunter and Hartshorn all tucked up tight behind. And that's Underhill running wide. Alex Fortune looking to try and get to the inside. Oh, and Underhill's trying to challenge into the chicane, and there's contact and Underhill spins. Everyone avoids him, and Chris Underhill's going to get that out of the grass and keep on up the track. Kevin O'Neill's going to go through. And that's Paul Alexander in the foreground making another move at the horseshoe, this time on Steve Groves for 6th. So the red speed passes the Cosmic. Now up into top bend they go once again. Now Alex Fortune looking to try and challenge Steve Groves next. And that looks like Chris Underhill dropping back. And here's Joey Foster up the inside of Paul Wheeler. Stuart Gray starting to open up a little bit of a gap there in 2nd spot, but through the chicane goes Alexander, Groves, Fortune, Bell, Hollis. Max Gunter starting to get slightly distance from this pack, likewise John Hartshorn. And that was Mike Bell looking at the inside of Alex Fortune. Further back there, Kevin O'Neill ahead of Rob Mortimer. And sure enough, Bell did indeed get past Fortune, and Will Hollis looks like he's followed him through. So Hollis making up yet another position. Their next targets are Steve Groves. He's round top bend there, the 2 drivers with the orange helmets in battle as Bell alongside Groves down into Billy's blind. Kart 2 passing Kart 4, and now Bell up into 7th through the chicane. Ahead of us is Paul Alexander. Now Bell's got his sights set on the red speed in front, but that is Will Hollis now taking over the fight with Steve Groves. In behind Hollis is Alex Fortune. Both Hollis and Fortune have made up a number of positions so far this race. Further back, Robin Stoddart Stones passing John Hartshorn. So another change in position. Max Gunter's now back in this fight. He's right on the back bumper of Alex Fortune. There's O'Neill, Mortimer, Good and Kemp. He's down into Billy's blind. Mike Bell slashing that gap down against Paul Alexander. And that's Will Hollis through against Steve Groves in behind. So positions still not settling down. Groves defending now against Alex Fortune. Fortune joined by Max Gunter, so still a 3-kart battle, and Fortune up the inside. And Gunter's going to follow through the gap Fortune created, so Steve Groves slipping down the order once again in the Cosmic. But back up to the front of this battle, Mike Bell on the back bumper of Paul Alexander, heading down to cross the line to start another lap. Will Hollis in tow. Robin Stoddart Stones there ahead of John Hartshorn, and further back Kevin O'Neill, Rob Mortimer and David Good closing in. Alex Kemp following them. There's Ron Schoen rounding top bend. Stuart Gray in 2nd spot, opening the gap up against Joey Foster still. But back to the pack. It's Mike Bell challenging Paul Alexander. It's John Hartshorn trying to reel back in Robin Stoddart Stones. And then Kevin O'Neill leading the next pack further back. There's round buttons and into top bend, on board with Mike Bell. Number 9 in front of us, the red speed of Paul Alexander. Across the line, 1 minute to go on the clock. Of course, it's going to be the timer, and then the next time the leader passes the lap, there'll be 1 more to go. Through the chicane they go, Bell looking to set up a run against Paul Alexander. Down the Sturmey straight, up the inside into the hand hairpin. Bell down the inside. Can he cover it off? Paul Alexander's quick through this section, but he's on the wrong side. Mike Bell up to 6th, Alexander down to 7th, and Will Hollis now hot on his heels. There's Fortune and Gunter, they're trying to catch up as well. Meanwhile, back to Stuart Gray in 2nd spot. There's Joey Foster 3rd, going up the inside of Ron Schoen to put a lap on him. Anthony Cleal with a hand on the carburettor there, so possibly a throttle cable issue. Kevin Ford in 5th, going to be looking to try and close him down in the dying moments of the race. As into Billy's blind it goes the pack. There's Paul Wheeler. Mike Bell in 6th ahead of Alexander. Then Will Hollis, Alex Fortune, Max Gunter, Steve Groves. Robin Stone hasn't quite shaken John Hartshorn. Then it's Kevin O'Neill, Rob Mortimer, David Good and Alex Kemp. And then it's the O-Plate, Dave Watts, the race leader, coming up to put a lap on that group. So interesting race still to come for the O-Plate in the dying embers, as we're on board now with Paul Alexander. The clock has hit 0, so 2 laps to go for this group, and Will Hollis looking down the inside into Billy's blind. Through goes the 45, but Paul Alexander switches back for the inside for the chicane and retakes the place. Will Hollis there going in a little bit too deep, and Alexander using his experience edge to get back underneath. Meanwhile, we're on board with Alex Kemp going up the inside of both David Good and Rob Mortimer through the chicane, so things changing still further back. And that might be why. There's Dave Watts making the lap on David Good, so the blue flags are out. As round pit bend goes the pack. There's Robin Stones. And Will Hollis there once again looking to the inside of the kink, but Paul Alexander chopping him off. Kevin O'Neill though has run wide. Alex Kemp trying to challenge him behind, and Dave Watts in behind them in the O-Plate. He's going to win the race. Dave Watts takes the victory in round 5 of the Two Counties Kart Club Championship. But it's not over yet, as that is Paul Alexander down the inside. Alex Kemp's made the move on Kevin O'Neill, but Kemp's going to wash wide, lose the back end, and O'Neill's going to get back up ahead. Will Hollis still challenging Paul Alexander. Alex Fortune closing that gap rapidly as well, so this is all going to be a race to the line. Round pit bend they go. And it's going to be Alexander just about holding off Will Hollis, so a great charge there from Hollis. And now we're on board with Alex Kemp. Number 18, Kevin O'Neill, is going to sprint away from us on the run down to the line, and O'Neill is going to hold off Alex Kemp despite the last lap position switches. But what a race that was to round out the 2022 Formula Blue season. And the results will be confirmed. Dave Watts takes the victory on track by 5 seconds ahead of Stuart Gray, who would be the winner of the 2022 Matthew Percy Memorial Trophy. Joey Foster finishing in 3rd spot ahead of Anthony Cleal, with Kevin Ford rounding out the top 5. Mike Bell up into 6th ahead of Will Hollis, with Alex Fortune 8th ahead of Max Gunter and Steve Groves. Robin Stone's 11th ahead of Paul Alexander, who would get a 5-second front fairing infringement to drop him to 12th. John Hartshorn's next ahead of Kevin O'Neill and Alex Kemp, with Rob Mortimer, David Good, Ron Schoen and Paul Wheeler all finishing a lap down. Unfortunately, Chris Underhill and Chris Lord both failing to finish the race. And that will update the standings, and it's going to be Joey Foster taking the win of the 2022 Two Counties Kart Club Championship by 3 points ahead of Anthony Cleal. Mike Bell a further 2 points back in 3rd. Paul Alexander with a strong run up into 4th, pipping Steve Groves on tiebreak. Kevin O'Neill a further point behind in 6th ahead of Chris Underhill, with Max Gunter, John Hartshorn and Rob Mortimer running at the top 10. With only a point between Mortimer and 11th place David Good, and a further point back to Ron Schoen. Alex Kemp 13th ahead of Alex Fortune, and David Waldron, despite a non-attendance here, will be running out the top 15. In the Blue Masters Championship, Joey Foster would seize the title in that one as well. Only a single point though ahead of Anthony Cleal. Steve Groves going to be rounding out the top 3 in that, ahead of Kevin O'Neill and Paul Alexander. He's similarly close between the 3 of them, only 2 points separating them. Chris Underhill 6th ahead of Rob Mortimer, with John Hartshorn in 8th ahead of David Good and Ron Schoen to complete the top 10. Alex Kemp 11th ahead of Chris Lord, David Waldron, Alex Fortune and Robin Stones to complete the top 15. In the Blue Veteran standings, it would be Anthony Cleal retaining his title for another year. Kevin O'Neill, his nearest challenger, in 2nd spot, only a point ahead of Steve Groves, with a further point back to Paul Alexander in 4th. Chris Underhill making up the top 5 ahead of Rob Mortimer, John Hartshorn, David Good, Ron Schoen and Chris Lord to complete the top 10, with David Waldron in behind ahead of Robin Stones and Stuart Gray. And in the Blue Legend standings, it's Kevin O'Neill taking the title, Chris Underhill behind him in 2nd, with John Hartshorn making up the top 3 ahead of David Good on tiebreak. Ron Schoen in 5th ahead of Chris Lord, Robin Stones, Stuart Gray, Mike Watts and Mark Cook. And in the Blue Top Weights, it's going to be Rob Mortimer taking the win on the day to take the 2022 Top Weight title. Ron Schoen in 2nd ahead of Tom Parker, Fred Powell and Mike Watts. That's going to be all for today from Clay Pigeon and the final round of the Two Counties Kart Club Championship, and also for 2022. So we hope you all have a good winter, and we'll see you in 2023. But for now, we will leave you with the Clay Pigeon Kart Club presentation.
No, I mean, I knew you were going to go in too hot. You had me, but that's why I got it trying to race it.
Well well recognised and famous touring car driver with the name of Wyn Percy. We've got a couple of his items downstairs. Matthew was his son, who tragically died in a road accident probably about 30 years ago. He used to be a member of this club, and the equipment was supplied for by Ron Schoen of Tabor, who obviously Ron now does the Formula Blue and the Junior Blue, etc. Matthew was a lovely young man. There's a few of us that obviously grew up with him. And it was a tragic accident, so his dad has asked Ron over the years to have a trophy for this, of which it is today. So, important one on that side for the Formula Blue drivers. So, 6th place in Formula Blue was Michael Bell. Well done, Michael. And 5th place today, Kevin Ford. Well done, Kevin.
Oh, it's not here.
Okay, we have no Kevin around at the moment. So in 4th place today, Anthony Cleal. Well done, Anthony.
He's never had a 4th one before.
Lord, have you ever been there? Okay, on to the top 3 now. So 3rd place, Joey Foster. Well done, Joey. And a runner-up today, probably the shortest man ever to race in Formula Blue, Stuart Gray. Well done, Stuart. And winning the Formula Blue today by 4.9 seconds, Dave Watts. Well done, Dave.
Here you go, lads. You're all good. Well done, lads. Well done.